There's a lot of do's and don'ts when it comes to two-wire systems. Today, I'm gonna show you a don't. If you have this idea, don't do it, okay? This does not work, and I've been working on this system now for 3 hours and have finally found a bad splice. I've never seen anyone do this, but I'm gonna tell you right now, when I first dug it up, I was like, okay, this has gotta be where the problem is. And then when I started really investigating, whew, yeah. Let me show you something. So real quick, what we've got is we've got a two-wire system that's coming in, and then it goes into this building, controllers on the other side of this wall. I traced this wire and I got to thinking, I think it's spliced right here. And then this is what I found. I found this caulking tube with the bottom cut off of it. And then it was put over 2 splices. Now these are actually weatherproof type wire nuts. Still not the type to use on 2-wire. But then, instead of putting it in a valve box, we had this idea to put this window sealing type caulk around it. Now, what eventually happened is see this stuff, it gets hard and it does not weatherproof. I mean, it needs to be some sort of grease. And then when I'm messing around, look at this. I was losing power. You see this right there? When I just messed with it, wire came undone. It corroded off right there. So splice went bad, the wire corroded because it was not spliced correctly, didn't use the right stuff, and it wasn't in a valve box. This is what happens. Splices go bad all the time in conventional systems and in two-wire systems. But because splices go bad, and it just happens, you need to be able to put your splices in a valve box. That way you can get to them with extra wire, cut them out and redo it, and maybe that fixes your problem. It's really not a good idea to bury your splices, because if you've ever got a problem, you've got to dig it all back up. It really makes your repair longer, more expensive, just not really a way to go. But then also, you want to make sure you use the right type of splice kits. You want to use some sort of weatherproof splice where you put a nut on and then you put a grease-filled tube over it. And still, even then, you want to have it in a valve box and not just buried in the ground. Do not ever just buy this stuff and put it over it and think that you're waterproofing this and weatherproofing this. Don't use this stuff to weatherproof splices on a 2-wire irrigation system. And they didn't do it once, they did it twice. This is great. But what I think was this wire got cut right here, and this is how they put it back together. Not a good idea. When it comes to 2-wire, your splices are some of your most important parts. There's a lot of more voltage running through a 2-wire system than there is a conventional system. Well, maybe 10 more volts depending on what system that you're running as far as manufacturer. But still, your splices are very, very important. And one of the main reasons why you have to make sure your splices are good on a 2-wire system is because you're running power, but you're also running communications. In order for the controller to talk to different decoders out in the field, you're running a communication back and forth in the same wire as you do the power. And so you're running 2 different types of things in that one set of wires there, which makes these systems really cool, but also pretty complex, but also makes it to where you've got to get these splices right and use the right materials, the right splice kits, do it the right way. I mean, it's very, very important. I can't stress that enough. And so you really want to be careful about how you're doing it, what you're doing. But like I said, use the right materials, use the right splices, like a DBRY. That's really the splice that you want to use, and then put them in a valve box. It's so much easier to work on the system later. Because frankly, guys, you're going to be working on these systems. They're not foolproof forever. It's not just you put it in, you never touch it again. No, these are things you maintain, you keep up with, and you're going to be working on them. So if you do these things in your install, but then if you do a repair it the right way, it's really going to bring your irrigation systems up to the next level, but also your repair work up to the next level. And honestly, if you're not real positive on what to do in this situation, had you cut this wire, it's really best just to call a professional, let them take care of it. It's going to save you in the long run. This is the type of splice kit that you want to use. This is a DBRY splice kit. On these splice kits, The wire nut does not have the grease-filled weatherproofing in it. It's just a regular wire nut. Well, I'll say regular. This one's got the little wings on it because it actually locks in this grease-filled tube. Now this is what has the goop in there. And it's a weatherproof grease. And then when you splice, you make sure you get all the way down to the bottom, and it totally encases that splice in this weatherproofing grease. And then when you click over the top, man, it really locks it in, and it also keeps water, junk from getting in there and getting to that splice. Splices still can go bad even in these, but man, this is gonna last a long time, but it's really the way with how you're supposed to splice your 2-wire system is using a kit like this. So now you can see we've got wire coming up where it's accessible. We're gonna put that box around it. We actually ran this new wire in a conduit and over, it goes into this box with the splice like this other one. This is a better setup. Now we may have to dig out this box to get to this splice, but at least we know where it's at, and it's more accessible than just being buried in the ground. The next thing that I'm going to suggest to them is us take this splice out right here, and we'll run a new wire from this other splice straight into the controller. I looked at doing that, and it actually goes really deep. It follows the main line into the well controls and all that inside this well house. And so we'll have to come out of the building, run some conduit and things like that, make it look real good. But I've got to get that approved before we do that. So for now, to get this system running, we ended up putting these 2 splices back in, but really just need to do 1. And that's what I'm going to suggest that we do for the next repair.